Hello everyone, and welcome. Today we are going to talk about the multiverse theory. This is the idea that our universe is not the only one, but that there may be countless universes existing alongside it. It's a fascinating subject, but also a controversial one. My goal in this presentation is simple: to explain what the multiverse theory is, where it came from, and then to show why it ultimately fails as an explanation of reality. Along the way, we'll look at some objections people raise and see how those objections can be answered. Part 1. Background of the multiverse theory. The idea of the multiverse has roots in several areas of modern science and philosophy. First, in cosmology, there is the theory of eternal inflation. This suggests that as the universe expanded in the early moments after the Big Bang, pockets of space may have inflated into separate bubble universes. If this is true, then our universe could be just one bubble among many. Second, in quantum mechanics, there is the many worlds interpretation. This view says that every time a quantum event could go one way or another, the universe splits, and both outcomes actually happen in separate universes. Third, in string theory, physicists have discovered that the equations allow for many possible configurations of space, dimensions, and laws of physics. Some suggest that every possible configuration is realized as its own universe. Finally, some philosophers, like Max Tegmark, have pushed this idea to the extreme. They argue for a so-called mathematical multiverse, where every logically possible universe exists. In this view, anything that can be described mathematically must be real somewhere. So that's the background. The multiverse theory is not a single theory, but a cluster of different ideas. And it has often been used as a way to avoid appealing to God. For example, when people notice that our universe looks finely tuned for life, some respond by saying, well, of course it looks special to us. With enough universes, one was bound to get lucky. Part 2. Arguments against the multiverse. Now let's look at why the multiverse fails. First, if the multiverse means that all possible universes exist, then it must include at least one universe where God exists and creates. And if God is a necessary being, then he cannot be confined to just one universe. He must exist in all. In other words, by its own logic, the multiverse ends up affirming God rather than explaining him away. Second, the multiverse does not answer the deepest question: why is there something rather than nothing? Whether there is one universe or infinitely many, the whole system is still contingent. It still needs an explanation. Only a necessary being, God, can explain why anything exists at all. Third, the multiverse multiplies entities beyond necessity. Instead of giving us clarity, it introduces countless unprovable worlds to explain the one world we actually see. It's not really an explanation, it's a distraction. Part 3. Objections to our arguments. Of course, people raise objections. Let's consider 3 of the most common ones. Objection 1. Someone may say, but maybe one universe just sprang out of nothing. That's also possible. Objection 2. Others argue, perhaps there was an eternal singularity, or a timeless quantum state, that eventually exploded and gave rise to the universe. Objection 3. Still others will say, maybe the universe itself is the necessary being. Why not stop there? Part 4. How we overcome these objections. Let's take them one at a time. Response to Objection 1. A universe from nothing. Nothing, in the true sense, has no properties, no potential, no power. It cannot cause anything. To say that something came from nothing is not a scientific claim, it is a contradiction. On the other hand, a universe created by God is perfectly coherent. So when comparing possibilities, only the God-created universe stands as rational. Response to objection 2, the eternal singularity. Even if we grant an eternal singularity, it still doesn't explain itself. If it has no reason for its existence, it's just a brute fact, an empty label for mystery. If it does have a reason, then it points to a necessary being beyond itself. As Aquinas argued, even an eternal world would still need God to hold it in being here and now. Response to objection 3, the universe as the necessary being. This fails for several reasons. The universe is made up of parts, which makes it dependent and contingent. The universe changes, which means it is not pure actuality. And the universe could have been otherwise, with different laws and constants. All of these are signs of contingency, not necessity. A true necessary being must be simple, unchanging, and self-existent. That description fits God, not the universe. So each of these objections either collapses into incoherence or still requires God. None of them succeeds in removing him. Conclusion. So where does this leave us? The multiverse is an imaginative idea. It makes for good science fiction, and it gives some scientists a way to dodge uncomfortable questions about design. But when examined closely, it does not answer the most fundamental question: why does anything exist at all? If all possible universes exist, then a God-created universe must exist. If we appeal to nothing, we run into contradiction. If we appeal to an eternal singularity, it still requires explanation. If we claim the universe itself is necessary, we find it is not. In the end, the multiverse cannot replace God. On the contrary, when we take its own logic seriously, it points us right back to him, the necessary, eternal, and unchanging creator who sustains all things in being. Thank you for joining me for this presentation.